Welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, I'm Ben and this is my YouTube channel where I share all things running. If you are new, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel to follow my running journey. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I progressed in the 5k after running a 22-minute 5k in early 2019 to a sub 16-minute 5k in 2021. So I'll split this video into 5 sections, and the first is consistency. Now, unfortunately, I'd like to sit here and tell you a secret that will knock you 2 minutes off your PB. But in the last 2 years of my running journey, if you like, I've not found that secret yet. However, the beauty of the 5k is that as you become a more consistent runner, so somebody who runs 2 or 3 times a week in, week out, you will slowly see an improvement in your 5k time. So one of the big takeaways from my training over the last 2 years is there's no one session, there's no one run that will make or break you. It's the string of weeks and weeks of consistent training that will make you a better runner. So it's getting out there week after week, putting your shoes on, getting out the door and putting the miles in, and consistently building weeks of running that will slowly improve you over time, and you'll become a much better runner. So that is first point, consistency. So my next point is to build your mileage. Slowly increase the amount of time you spend running a week and the distance you run a week. So when I first set the goal of running a faster 5k, the thought of running further than 5k in training seemed a little bit strange, but this is all part of building the mileage. Now, when building your mileage, there's a 10% rule that you may or may not have heard of, which basically means, say if you run 20 kilometers one week, your body should be able to handle a 10% increase in the next week, so running 22 kilometers without getting injured. Now this is something I tried to follow throughout my training, but in hindsight I was a little bit overconfident in the sort of distance I could run, and I increased my running a bit too quickly. So I wish I'd listened more to the 10% rule, because I got shin splints and it meant I couldn't run for about a month or 2 months without pain. So it took me a little while to recover, whereas had I slowly increased my mileage, I may not have got injured. So my top tip to building your mileage, which is something you will need to do if you want to get faster over the 5k, from my experience, is to do it slowly and to follow that 10% rule. So to give you an example of how I built my mileage, when I was running 22 minutes for the 5k, I was running around that 20 kilometers a week, maybe 2 or 3 runs a week. Whereas when I ran 15 minutes 46, I had slowly built my mileage up over 2 years to that 140 kilometers mark, which became the peak of my mileage during my training. Around about that 100 to 120 was where I was hitting on a weekly basis, but it peaked at 140 before 2 or 3 weeks before I ran that 15-minute 5k, and then I came down to around, I think, 60 kilometers in the week when I ran 15:46. The key with building mileage is to do it slowly and to listen to your body. That would be my main tips for building your mileage. And just don't try and do it too quickly. It takes time for your body to get used to it. If you have weeks where your body's really tired, the next week considering reducing the amount of mileage to then be able to build it up the next week. Now, these lockdown periods in the UK have been a really good opportunity for me to build my mileage. So I know for everyone it may not be easy to run. I think I've been running around 8 to 10 hours a week, so there's a lot of time to put into running, and I understand a lot of people have other commitments in their lives, so it may not be feasible to run those sort of distances, this sort of time each week. So my advice would be, if you haven't got the time to be running 100 kilometers a week, then just to prioritize your quality runs, which brings me on to my next point, which is speed work. So after you've built up your mileage, you've started to run more, you've started to feel fitter, there can be a plateau in your running. Now this happened for me at around 20 minutes for the 5k. I think I probably spent around 5 or 6 weeks trying to break sub 20 minutes. I would run 20 minutes 10 one week, 20 minutes 30 the next, then 20 minutes 09. So I sort of plateaued around that 20-minute mark. And this is when I suggest introducing speed work into your training. A good way of doing this is through interval training. Some of my favorite intervals for the 5K are like kilometer repeats. So you run a kilometer at your desired 5K race pace. So if it's for a 20-minute 5K, then you want to be running at 4-minute kilometers. And then after that kilometer, you rest for 1 minute 30. You can either do a standing rest or you can do a jog recovery rest. I recommend around that 2-minute mark when you're starting, when you've not done intervals before. And then as you get fitter and more used to the speed work, try and reduce that recovery period down to around a minute mark. So a good workout for me for the 5K is 6 times a kilometer with a minute rest. And now I try and hit these kilometers at my target race pace or just below. In training, you're not as super fresh as you would be on race day, because if you haven't tapered, for example, or your legs are a bit tired from the previous run you did the other day. So around that 5K race pace. Yeah, so speed work, it gets your body used to running at faster speed in your training. So when it comes to your race day, your legs are used to it, your body's become more efficient, and yeah, it shouldn't be too much of a shock to run at that pace having run it in training. So I'd recommend doing a sort of speed training workout once a week to start with, and then slowly building up to 2, possibly even 3 speed works a week. In order to stay consistent, to build your mileage and to incorporate speed work into your training, you need to stay injury free. And this is where recovery techniques come in. So the recovery techniques I use is foam rolling and stretching, which I do after my runs. After hard workouts, I have ice baths. I fill up the dustbin with water, put loads of ice in it, and just stand in it for around that 2-3 minute mark. Or I just take a regular hot bath after my hard runs. I try to eat well, so diet with protein and a good amount of carbohydrate to replenish the calories that you burn on the run. Probably the most important part of the recovery is making sure you get that sleep. So I find getting that 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep. The more you sleep, the longer your body has time to recover, and you wake up a lot fresher than if you've had 3 or 4 hours sleep. So try and prioritize getting a good amount of sleep, which I know can be hard. Now I'm sure I can make a whole separate video on recovery, but just to say, if you don't start prioritizing recovery, then don't expect to stay injury free. It sounds a bit dramatic, but running is quite a high impact sport. It can be quite demanding on the body, so you need to start prioritizing your recovery just as much as you prioritize the speed work, the building, the mileage, the consistency, in order to stay injury free and to keep you running, basically. So the last point number 5, is hard work. Now this is a bit of a cheesy point, but it's definitely something that I would say has helped improve me as a 5K runner over the last 2 years, is constantly getting out there when you're knackered, when you've had a hard day at work, when it's chucking it down with rain and you really don't want to go outside and do your run. It's when these are the times where you've got to put the hard work in, get out there, get it done, if you want to see the results. And trust me, when you run a PB on race day, you look back at all the hard work you put in, it really is worth it. And finally, if you're still here and watching the video, I presume you are looking to PB in the 5K this year or in your next race. So all the best with that. I hope you've got something from this video, some of my top tips over the last 2 years of running. And yeah, just use a combination of the 5 tips I've talked about. So consistency, build your mileage, try some speed work, prioritize recovery, and finally put in the hard work on the days where it's chucking it down with rain, you're knackered. Those are the days when it really counts. Thanks for watching. If you've liked the video, please leave a like. It helps boost the video, improve the algorithm, blah 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 blah. But yeah, consider subscribing, and I'll see you with another video soon. Goodbye.